James could feel his heart racing before he even stepped into the living room. The weekend loomed large in his mind, bringing all kinds of new sensations he had never experienced with anyone before. Maya, his girlfriend of several years, had proposed a new idea that challenged him in unexpected ways. They had always shared a trusting and playful bond, so when she first mentioned that she wanted him to be her personal maid for 2 days, he'd been taken aback, yet undeniably intrigued. It was impossible for him to deny the excitement that coursed through his veins, even though it made him blush every time he thought about it. "Are you sure you're okay with this?" Maya asked the night before their planned weekend. They were in the bedroom, surrounded by the soft glow of fairy lights, which gave the space a gentle warmth. She leaned against the headboard, arms loosely crossed. Her gaze flickered between concern and anticipation. Maya had always been direct, yet caring, and James trusted that she would respect every boundary they had carefully discussed. James tried to sound steady when he answered, "Yes, it's definitely new for me, but I think I want to try." Deep down, he felt a swarm of butterflies. Part of him craved the vulnerability that came with stepping into unfamiliar territory. The other part of him worried about whether this weekend would change the dynamic between them. But Maya's confidence comforted him. She always found a way to make him feel safe. They had spent hours negotiating exactly what this weekend entailed. Maya wanted him to serve her in a maid's outfit, one that she had picked out online. She promised it wasn't too revealing, but it was unquestionably a piece of attire James wouldn't typically wear. It was black, with a ruffled skirt and a small white apron. The idea of wearing it made his cheeks flush. Yet the promise of exploration and trust underlined everything, and the entire plan felt like an unspoken affirmation of how much they cared for each other. They had set clear ground rules. No invasive acts, no crossing personal boundaries either had specified, and they both agreed on safe words that would instantly pause or stop the scenario if anything felt overwhelming. When the agreed-upon weekend finally arrived, James woke up early, nerves tingling. He took a shower longer than usual, letting the steam calm him down. The mirror reflected his tense features. He ruffled his still wet hair and tried to slow his breathing. He reminded himself, "Maya and I are doing this together. We trust each other." Entering the living room, he found Maya waiting by the coffee table. Her dark hair was styled neatly, and she wore a casual blouse with fitted jeans. She projected a mix of confidence and friendliness. On the couch lay the garment bag that held his outfit. The mere sight of it tightened the flutter in his stomach. Maya's eyes sparkled in the morning light. "Ready?" she asked, a playful smile on her lips. He nodded, though his voice caught in his throat. Carefully, he picked up the garment bag and carried it to the bedroom where he closed the door. Inside was the black and white maid's uniform with a small matching apron, a headband with lace trim, and, much to his bashful surprise, a pair of comfortable stockings that looked stretchable enough for his legs. Soft, satiny material brushed against his fingertips. He exhaled a shaky breath, questioning whether this moment was real. 10 minutes later, after a struggle with the stockings, he emerged in the outfit. The skirt, while not extremely short, rested higher on his thighs than anything he had worn before. The waist of the dress cinched him more than he was accustomed to, and the apron's strings wrapped snugly around his middle. His face burned as he walked into the living room, acutely aware of how he appeared. He knew Maya would never mock him, but that didn't stop him from feeling shy. Maya's eyes lit up when she saw him. She got up from the couch, a slow, appreciative smile curling at the corners of her mouth. Her gaze traveled over him, but in a way that felt neither humiliating nor judgmental. He stood stiffly, hands clasped in front, until Maya walked closer and gently tilted his chin up so their eyes met. "That looks good," she said in a warm tone. "How do you feel?" James cleared his throat. "Nervous," he admitted, voice trembling. But also excited, I guess. You can say red light anytime, Maya reminded him softly, referencing the safe word that would stop the activity at once. And if you need to pause, yellow light is good. No questions asked. He nodded, grateful for her calm presence. She leaned in, pressed a sweet kiss to his cheek, and led him back into the living room. The weekend had officially begun. Over the next couple of hours, Maya directed him through small household tasks. First, he tidied the kitchen, gathering dishes, scrubbing them in the sink, and wiping the counters with a cloth. He was hyper-aware of how the skirt swished around his thighs as he moved, how his reflection in the stainless steel appliances showed a version of himself he never thought he'd see. Whenever he caught sight of it, his heart skipped a beat. Yet somehow, a subtle calmness wove through the initial awkwardness. His breathing settled into a steady rhythm as he found a meditative focus in these tasks. Maya's footsteps approached, and James turned to face her. She inspected his work with mock seriousness. "You missed a spot on this plate," she teased, handing him a dish that was already spotless. Her tone was light, but there was a playful glimmer in her eye. "Let's make sure it's squeaky clean, James took the plate back and pretended to study it carefully. "Yes, miss," he responded. "Right away." He went back to scrubbing it with exaggerated diligence. Maya laughed, and he felt an unexpected wave of confidence that came from her acceptance of every new aspect they were playing with. There was no sense of judgment, only curiosity, warmth, and a hint of amusement. When the kitchen chores ended, Maya led him around the apartment, assigning minor tasks like dusting bookshelves, fluffing pillows, and organizing small knickknacks. She occasionally rested a guiding hand on his arm, a silent reminder that this weekend was a shared experiment in which both of them contributed. The tension he'd initially felt began to recede, replaced by a sense of closeness that sprang from tackling something so intimate together. Eventually, Maya said, "Let's take a break," and guided James to the couch. They both sat down, and she poured each of them a glass of juice. It was refreshing to pause, and James suddenly realized how tense his shoulders had been throughout the morning. When he leaned his head back on the couch, Maya placed a gentle hand on his knee. "How do you feel?" she asked, the concern in her voice as real as ever. He paused before answering. "Kind of exposed, but also, I'm not freaking out like I thought I would." He let out a low chuckle, mostly at himself. "I guess there's something calming about having a clear role to fulfill for a little while. It's interesting." He didn't quite have the words to capture the swirl of sensations, but he did know that any worry he'd had about Maya viewing him differently had quieted significantly. She reached for his hand. "You're doing great," she said. "And remember, this is our experiment. Nothing about this is set in stone. If at any point you want to stop or change something, we do that. No hesitation." He felt a swell of affection for her in that moment. The entire idea had been hers, but it was never forced upon him. Every step was about both of them. He finished his drink and set the glass down. "Ready for more cleaning?" he joked. Maya grinned. "In a bit. But first, I think you should practice greeting me properly." James tilted his head in confusion. "Greeting you?" "Yes," she nodded. "Imagine I've just come home. As my maid, you have to greet me at the door. Let's try that scenario." He swallowed. "Okay," he said, feeling the faint tremor of stage fright. Still, he made his way to the front door, leaving Maya behind in the living room. A moment later, he opened it from the inside, then closed it and stood at attention just to the side, adjusting the skirt so it lay neatly. When Maya approached, he opened the door again, bowed his head slightly, and spoke in a polite, perhaps overly formal voice. "Good afternoon, miss. Welcome home." Maya stepped through the doorway, laughing softly. "Very nice. But look up when you speak. I want to see your eyes." James tried again, feeling heat in his cheeks. This time he looked straight at her and delivered the line. She rewarded him with a little clap and a grin. The excitement in the pit of his stomach flared for a moment, and he realized that the mortification he'd anticipated was giving way to a strange, steady comfort. Sure, the outfit was unusual, and sure, he was a bundle of nerves, but Maya's acceptance grounded him in a way he had never quite expected. By midday, they sat down for lunch, which Maya had prepared earlier. James tried to insist he should cook, but she thought it would be nice for him to relax while she handled the meal. As they ate, Maya shared stories about her work week, and James found himself laughing along, momentarily forgetting about the outfit he wore. It was only when he shifted in his seat and felt the soft fabric of the skirt against his legs that he remembered where he was. The weekend had only just started, yet he already felt like an entire day's worth of emotions had passed through him. After they finished lunch, Maya leaned forward, resting her elbows on the table. "So, James, I have a request," she said. Her tone was sweet, but she was clearly gearing up for something. His heart thudded. He couldn't help feeling anxious about what might come next. "Yes?" he asked quietly. "I'd like you to do a bit of laundry," she said, a teasing light in her eyes. "I have a few clothes that need washing, and I think it fits the theme. After that, maybe you can help me organize my closet. I know it's not super glamorous, but that's what a maid might do." He exhaled, relieved that it wasn't anything too intense. "Sure, miss," he replied with a small smile, playing into his role. The next hour was consumed by sorting and washing clothes. James clung to the normalcy of the tasks. The pile of laundry was routine, something he'd done countless times before, but never under these circumstances. Every moment was laced with a subtle thrill. He lost track of time measuring detergent, adjusting the machine settings, and moving laundry from the washer to the dryer. Meanwhile, Maya hovered around, occasionally offering suggestions or praising him for how diligently he worked. It all felt both surreal and oddly comfortable. When the washing machine began its cycle with a loud whir, Maya guided James into the bedroom for the next task: closet reorganization. She had a walk-in closet that had become a bit messy in recent weeks. Clothes were piled on shelves without order, shoes were mismatched, and boxes of accessories were scattered across the floor. "You don't have to do it perfectly," she told him. "Just tidy it up and see if you can make sense of what's in there." He moved into the closet, the skirt brushing the edge of the doorway. It was cramped but well lit by a single overhead lamp. Carefully, he started taking items off the shelves, folding clothes neatly, and stacking them in piles, one for sweaters, one for formal wear, one for casual attire. He sorted Maya's shoes, placing them in pairs and arranging them along the bottom shelf. The rhythmic sorting lulled him into a steady state of concentration. He was so focused that he nearly jumped when Maya peeked inside. "Everything okay?" she asked. Her hand came to rest lightly on his shoulder. James turned, kneeling on the floor. "Yes," he said, voice betraying a trace of nerves. "Just trying to figure out where everything goes." Maya nodded, then crouched next to him, resting her chin on his shoulder. "Take a short break?" she suggested. He glanced at the half-sorted clothes all around, aware of how close she was. Her presence sent a small jolt of excitement through him again. "Sure," he breathed, placing a folded blouse aside. They walked back into the bedroom proper, and Maya settled on the bed. She gestured for James to join her. Once he was seated, she placed a hand on his back and rubbed small, soothing circles. "You're doing great, you know," she murmured. "I really appreciate how open you are to all of this." James felt a wave of warmth. "Well," he began, "I still feel a bit of that anxious rush." but it's not as overpowering as I thought it would be. And I like your reaction. It feels good to know you're still you and I'm still me." She nodded, understanding perfectly. Then her voice took on a lighter quality. "You look kind of adorable," she confessed. He let out an embarrassed laugh. "It's not an outfit I ever pictured myself in, but I guess it doesn't hurt, right?" Maya's smile was bright. "No, it doesn't hurt at all. And for the record, I'm loving your dedication to the chores. If you ever want to do this again, maybe we can give me a break every weekend," she teased, prompting a smirk from him. He rolled his eyes playfully. "Don't get too carried away." After a few minutes of casual conversation, they returned to the closet. James resumed organizing while Maya sorted through her accessories, discarding old scarves and hats she no longer needed. The air was filled with the soft rustle of fabric and the occasional click of hangers. Working side by side, they found a quiet harmony in the process. Every now and then, Maya would lean over and give him a quick peck on the cheek, as though to remind him she was grateful for his efforts. Once they finished, the closet looked remarkably better. Clothes were neatly hung or folded, shoes were paired, and the small space felt far less claustrophobic. James surveyed the results with a sense of pride. He had done a decent job, especially given he was wearing an outfit that constantly reminded him of the unusual situation. They took another break for drinks in the early evening. Maya allowed James to slip out of the uniform for a short period, just to decompress. He changed into sweatpants and a t-shirt, and they curled up together on the couch. She softly rubbed his neck, and he sighed, relieved yet somewhat surprised by how quickly the hours had passed. "You know," Maya said, "I think you're amazing for trying this. I know it's not exactly typical to switch roles like this, but I respect your openness more than I can say." He smiled, resting his head against her shoulder. "I appreciate that. Sometimes I wonder what people would think if they knew, but honestly, I don't care that much. It's between us." She pressed her cheek to his hair. "Yes, and that's what makes it special." They ordered takeout for dinner. After they ate, Maya suggested they watch a movie to wind down. James remained in his casual clothes during the movie, both of them enjoying a comfortable familiarity. They laughed at the comedy on screen, shared popcorn, and exchanged light-hearted jokes. The day's earlier tension had dissipated into an evening of togetherness. Later, when the night stretched on and it was time to prepare for bed, Maya turned to him with a questioning look. "Do you want to continue tomorrow?" she asked. "You did great today, and if you want to keep going with the role play, I'm definitely up for it." James felt a flutter in his stomach. He thought about how the day had gone, his nerves, the outfit, the chores, the closeness he felt with Maya. Despite the initial embarrassment, he found himself nodding. "I do," he said, surprising himself with the firmness in his voice. "I want to keep going. Let's see what tomorrow brings." With a grateful smile, Maya leaned in to kiss him. "I'm looking forward to it." They went to bed soon after, lying close beneath the blankets. The hush of nighttime enveloped them, and James drifted off with a calm that he didn't expect to feel after such a unique day. Morning light filtered in through the blinds, painting streaks of pale gold across the bedroom walls. James stirred, momentarily forgetting the events of the previous day. But as soon as he lifted himself onto his elbows, the memory of the maid uniform and the chores returned, and he felt a wave of anticipation. He could hear Maya in the kitchen already, perhaps making coffee or breakfast. He stretched, rolled his shoulders, and headed to the bathroom. After freshening up, he hesitated by the closet. The uniform hung on the outside of the wardrobe where Maya had neatly placed it for day 2. Again, that familiar mixture of apprehension and curiosity coursed through him. He took a steadying breath and dressed himself in the black and white outfit, smoothing out the apron. When he finally worked up the nerve to step into the hallway, he found Maya leaning against the kitchen counter, sipping coffee from her favorite mug. Her eyes sparkled with amusement and warmth when she saw him. "Morning, darling," she greeted, setting the mug down. "Ready to start day 2? He glanced down at his uniform, fiddling with the hem of the skirt. "Yes, miss," he answered, adding a playful bow. He tried to speak with a steady voice, although his heart thumped behind his ribs. Maya handed him a mug of coffee. "We have some laundry from last night, plus I think the living room needs a little dusting. After that, I'd love a home-cooked breakfast, if you don't mind." "Yes, miss," he repeated, feeling a blush creep across his cheeks. He inhaled the warm aroma of coffee and braced himself for more chores. By mid-morning, James was bustling around the living room, dusting surfaces and organizing small clutter. Maya occasionally stepped in to issue polite instructions, continuing to play the role of the person in charge. But despite the playful authority she projected, there was always that underlying tenderness in her tone. The living room soon gleamed under his diligent care. He carefully wiped down the coffee table, arranged throw blankets on the couch, and made sure not a speck of dust remained on the bookshelves. Maya observed from time to time, offering small praises that made him feel unexpectedly accomplished. The uniform felt less foreign now. He was growing used to the swish of the skirt around his thighs, and though it still made him self-conscious, the sense of awkwardness had lessened compared to the previous day. Afterward, he moved to the kitchen to start cooking breakfast. He found some eggs, spinach, tomatoes, cheese, and a bit of leftover chicken from the fridge. Chopping vegetables in the uniform was an odd sight, but there was a gentle thrill to the entire thing. He whisked the eggs, heated the pan, and hummed to himself. The sizzling aroma soon wafted through the apartment. Maya approached, leaning against the counter as she watched. "You're getting the hang of this," she remarked. James gave a short laugh. "I cook sometimes anyway, but I guess it's a bit different in this getup. Still, I love the dedication. Thank you." She brushed a strand of hair away from his forehead, a quiet gesture that made him feel closer to her. They ate breakfast together at the small kitchen table, the morning sunlight illuminating their plates. For a moment, the conversation drifted to regular everyday topics: upcoming grocery shopping, weekend errands, and a friend's birthday party the following week. In between those casual moments, James could still feel the skirt's fabric resting against his legs and the little white apron tied snugly at his waist, a reminder that this was not just any ordinary Sunday. With breakfast finished, Maya smiled. "All right, time for you to wash up, and then I think I'd like to see your best attempt at serving tea. I bought a new tea blend I've been dying to try." James got to work cleaning the dishes, his movements quick and efficient. When he was done, Maya took a seat in the living room, and James prepared a pot of tea. He found the delicate china cups that Maya rarely used, figuring it would please her if he presented the tea in a more refined way. Soon, the fragrance of the steeping blend filled the room. Carrying the tray into the living room, James approached Maya, who lounged comfortably on the couch with a book in hand. He bowed slightly as he set the tray on the coffee table, carefully pouring tea into her cup. "Your tea, miss," he said softly. Maya lowered her book and sampled the tea. "Delicious," she said, her brows lifting in approval. She sipped again and took a deep breath as though savoring the aroma. "You've done quite well." James felt an odd sense of gratification at her praise. While part of him remained bashful about this role play, he couldn't deny the subtle satisfaction he found in fulfilling these tasks for her. He brought the second teacup to his own lips, and they shared a quiet moment, letting the morning slip into afternoon. At one point, Maya stood and stretched. "Let's go for a quick walk later," she proposed. "Nothing big, just around the neighborhood. But first, I'd like you to help me with a small project, organizing some books in the study." He inhaled sharply. Going outside in the outfit was a boundary he didn't feel comfortable crossing. "Wait, you mean dressed like this?" he asked, voice trembling with apprehension. Maya's eyes widened. "Oh, no, I wouldn't ask you to do that. I meant just a normal walk. I'd never push you to go outside in something you're not comfortable wearing." She placed a reassuring hand over his. "Everything we do is within the limits we discussed, remember?" Relief washed over him. "Right," he said, exhaling shakily. "Sorry, I got nervous for a second." She gently squeezed his hand. "No worries. Let's do the bookshelf project. Then we can both change into normal clothes and head out. Sound good?" He nodded. "Yes, miss," he replied, appreciating the clarity. The last thing he wanted was to venture beyond the apartment walls in the uniform. Inside their private space, he felt able to experiment, knowing that he was shielded by Maya's understanding and the comfort of their home. Maya led him to the small study where they kept a collection of novels, reference books, and random magazines scattered across a tall shelf. Some volumes were arranged upright, while others lay in leaning stacks. With a slight cringe, she gestured at the haphazard arrangement. "I've been meaning to tackle this for months, but never got around to it." James rolled up the imaginary sleeves of his dress, or at least made the motion, and set to work. While he sorted by genre, Maya flipped through some old magazines, occasionally gasping at forgotten articles or photos that jogged memories. They enjoyed a mild nostalgia together. He discovered a faded children's storybook that Maya used to read. She laughed as she recalled how she'd practically memorized every page back then. James teased her about the cartoonish animals on the cover, and she mock-hit him with it, spurring a flurry of light-hearted banter that filled the study with laughter. By the time they finished, the shelf looked tidy and almost professional. Maya stood back, admiring the result. "We should do before and after pictures," she joked, "because we did some serious organizing here." He nodded, stepping aside to survey their work. "It's definitely a nice improvement." She turned to him, her expression softening. "Thank you, James. You've been amazing this weekend." He smiled, a gentle flush warming his cheeks. "I'm enjoying it more than I expected, if I'm honest." Her eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "I'm glad." She then gestured toward the hallway. "All right, let's change into something comfortable. Then we can take a short walk around the block to get some fresh air." He agreed, slipping away to the bedroom. His heart rate eased as he shed the uniform. Even though he had grown accustomed to it over the past day, there was a small relief in wearing his usual clothes again. Maya had set out some comfy sweatpants and a soft hoodie for him. After changing, they met by the front door and headed outside. The sunlight was warm, and a soft breeze whispered through the trees lining their street. They strolled side by side, occasionally sharing observations about neighbors' gardens or newly painted houses. The contrast between the intimate role play inside the apartment and the normalcy of the neighborhood walk felt significant. James found himself reflecting on how easily they could switch between these two worlds. At one point, he caught Maya looking at him with a thoughtful expression. "What's on your mind?" he asked quietly. She shrugged, smiling. "Just thinking how nice it is that we can do something so unusual and personal, and then just step outside together like any other day. I value how adaptable our relationship is, I guess." They walked on, comfortable in their silence. After looping around several blocks, they returned home, feeling the warmth of the sun still lingering on their skin. Maya locked the door behind them, turning to James with a question in her eyes. "We can keep going, or if you've had enough, we can wrap it up," she offered. "I don't want you to push yourself." He paused, considering how the weekend had gone so far. He liked that he had explored a side of himself that he'd never previously acknowledged, and he felt a closeness to Maya that was stronger than before. "I'd like to keep going," he decided, mustering a soft confidence in his voice. Maya's face glowed in response. Okay then. Why don't we ease back into it by having you put on the uniform again, and maybe just do some final tasks in the evening? James nodded, heading to the bedroom once more. He couldn't ignore the flutter in his stomach as he slipped back into the outfit. A short while later, he emerged to find Maya casually scrolling through her phone. She glanced up and smiled, beckoning him closer. "There's a new recipe I found online," she said. "I'd love to try making it for dinner. Could you be my sous chef?" He gave her a playful curtsy. "Anything for you, miss." They moved to the kitchen and began chopping vegetables and preparing ingredients for a pasta dish with a creamy sauce. Maya took the lead this time, but James assisted at every step, stirring sauces and seasoning the mixture with careful attention. Steam rose from the pots, and the comforting aroma of garlic and herbs spread through the apartment. At one point, he jokingly complained about how the frilly skirt made it trickier to move around the kitchen, to which Maya responded with good-natured laughter and told him to work with what you've got. Eventually, they sat down at the dining table, plates of pasta steaming before them. The sense of teamwork was palpable, as though the entire day had been a dance of tasks and togetherness. They chatted lightly about the upcoming week, discussing bills that needed paying, grocery lists, and a friend's party they might attend. Between bites, Maya reached across the table to touch James's hand. "You look comfortable," she remarked. He considered her words. "I guess I've gotten used to the feeling. I'm still surprised at how normal it can feel to do everyday things while wearing something so different." Maya squeezed his hand, and for a moment they shared a thoughtful silence. Eventually they cleared the table, and James started washing the dishes. He caught his reflection in the window above the sink, a faint outline of himself in the maid's outfit. It struck him how quickly the mind can adapt. Yesterday morning, he was almost shaking at the thought of putting it on, and now, at the end of the second day, he was calmly cleaning dishes, wearing an apron and skirt, chatting with Maya about everyday life. Once the kitchen was in order, Maya stepped behind him, resting her chin on his shoulder. "Thank you," she murmured. "You've gone above and beyond." He turned off the water, dried his hands, and faced her. "I enjoyed it," he said softly, the admission sounding both honest and a little vulnerable. He still felt a ripple of anxiety, but it was muted by a quiet sense of contentment. Maya took his hand and led him to the sofa. They settled in, the soft hum of the air conditioner filling the space. She turned to him, tucking a leg under her. "So," she said, "the weekend is almost over. How are you feeling about everything?" James looked at her earnest face, taking in the warmth of her eyes. "It's been really strange and exciting," he confessed. "Embarrassing at times, but not in a bad way. More like, it showed me something I didn't know about myself." A slow nod from Maya. "I get it. It's interesting to see you in a different role, but it doesn't change who you are to me. If anything, it just shows another side of how caring, attentive, and brave you can be." His cheeks warmed. He wondered if he'd ever get used to her straightforward praise. Probably not. "I was worried you might think differently of me," he admitted. "But I guess that was silly." "Not silly, just human," she replied with a forgiving shrug. "We all get nervous when we step out of our comfort zones, but I never doubted how I'd feel about you. If anything, I respect you more." He relaxed against the couch cushions, letting out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "So, what now?" he asked, though the question felt as though it held more weight than just the next few minutes. Maya smiled gently. "We can wrap up the weekend. You've done your chores, you've cooked, you've worn the uniform longer than I expected you to. I'm beyond grateful that you let me explore this idea with you." She tilted her head. If you want to make this a once-in-a-while thing, I'm open to that. Or if you'd rather not do it again, I respect that too. The choice is yours. James found himself turning the thought over in his mind. Part of him felt relief that the weekend's intense expectations were drawing to a close. Another part of him realized that he might miss certain aspects of this experiment, namely the feeling of closeness, the warmth of stepping into a realm of trust that demanded courage from both of them. He glanced down at his outfit one last time, then back to Maya. Maybe we can do it again at some point. Not like all the time, but it doesn't have to be the last time. Her face lit up. Deal. She leaned in and pressed a tender kiss to his lips, a simple confirmation of everything unspoken between them. They spent the rest of the evening in each other's company, talking on and off about the experience and laughing over the little slip-ups and comedic moments. Maya teased him about how he'd nearly dropped a cup while trying to curtsy at the same time. He teased her back about her comedic attempts at bossing him around like a strict supervisor. There was an ease in their banter that felt unbreakable. Later, Maya headed to the bedroom to fetch some pajamas for James. Standing in the hallway, he carefully untied the apron's strings and slipped out of the uniform. He folded it neatly, placing it on the bed, as though it were an important keepsake. When Maya returned, she handed him a comfy shirt and sweatpants. They changed silently, each lost in reflections on the weekend. Finally, the two of them settled into bed. The lights were dim and the fan whirred gently. Maya reached for him, resting her head on his shoulder. "Are you okay?" she asked quietly. He turned his head to kiss the top of hers. "Yeah," he said. "It was a lot to take in, but I'm good. Thank you for being patient and supportive." "I wouldn't have it any other way," she replied, her voice tender. "Thank you for trusting me." They said nothing else for a long moment, just listened to each other's breath in the comfortable darkness. He found himself grateful to have discovered an avenue of closeness, even if it challenged some of his assumptions about what he could handle. He was still himself, and Maya was still her wonderful, confident self. If anything, it felt like their bond had grown stronger over these 2 days. Before drifting off to sleep, James felt a wave of calm sweep through him. Maya's fingertips drew light circles on his arm, lulling him into rest. The weekend had been an unexpected blend of bashfulness, excitement, and closeness that he never thought possible. He realized they had created a private space where they could venture into unusual territory without losing sight of who they were. And in that quiet moment, as exhaustion gently pulled him under, he thought about how grateful he was to have someone in his life who embraced every part of him, no matter how surprising it might be. He closed his eyes, letting that sense of contentment settle. This was new territory, and yet it already felt like something they shared, a treasured secret woven into the fabric of their relationship. With that, he allowed himself to welcome the possibilities that lay ahead, trusting in what the future might bring, as long as they walked that path hand in hand.
Did you like the story? Hit that like button and tell me what you thought in the comments. Do you want to hear more stories? Subscribe and hit the bell. For exclusive content and early access, check out our Patreon. You can find the link in the description, or you can watch any of the videos shown on my right. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.